February 19, 1943. Just before dawn. Kasserine Pass, Tunisia. Cold air hangs low in the narrow gap between the mountains. Wind slides through the pass like a blade, carrying grit and the sour smell of diesel. Somewhere ahead, an engine coughs, then settles into a low, steady growl. Tracks creak. Metal groans under weight. Inside the American lines, men crouch beside shallow foxholes scratched into rocky soil. Their breath fogs the darkness. You hear the clink of steel helmets as heads turn, the whisper of a radio being coaxed to life, the nervous slap of a gloved hand against a frozen thigh. Then the ground begins to tremble. At first it's faint. A distant vibration felt through boots and bone. Then comes the sound, deep, rolling, mechanical. Not trucks. Not artillery. Tanks. Second Lieutenant James McConnell grips the rim of his helmet and leans forward, squinting into the darkness beyond the pass. He's infantry, attached to Combat Command A of the 1st Armored Division. He's been told American armor is nearby. He's been told to hold. Behind him, silhouettes of M4 Sherman sit hull down where the terrain allows, their rounded turrets barely visible against the black rock. The tanks are still. Engines idling low. Crews inside wait, fingers resting on triggers and levers, ears pressed against intercom headsets. Inside one of those Shermans, Sergeant Frank Kowalski wipes condensation from his periscope. The glass clears just enough to show the mouth of the pass, a dark throat waiting to swallow them. His gunner, Private Eddie Ramos, mutters something under his breath. The loader shifts a 75mm shell, metal scraping metal, then stills. No one speaks. Then the first German flare rises. It hisses upward, sputtering white light across the pass. Shadows leap into existence. Rocks sharpen. Steel glints. And the panzers come through. Panzer III's first. Then the heavier shapes behind them, Panzer IVs, long-barreled, confident. Their engines roar now, unafraid of being heard. German commanders have done this before. They know this terrain. They know what American tanks look like when they burn. A German tank commander, Oberfeldwebel Karl Weiss, peers through his optics as his column advances. He has already seen Shermans knocked out in the previous days, burning, hatches blown open, thin armor split by shells that barely slow down. His crew jokes about it over the intercom. Amerikanisch Blechbutchsen. Tin cans. He raises his hand. The column slows. Guns elevate. The first shot cracks the air. A Panzer IV fires. The muzzle flash blooms yellow-white, lighting the rock walls. The shell slams into an American Sherman at the edge of the pass. The impact rings like a church bell struck with a hammer. Armor flakes. Smoke erupts from the hit. Inside the Sherman, the crew is thrown forward. Kowalski's head snaps against his headset. The radio screams with static. For half a second, the tank is blind. But it doesn't explode. The engine keeps running. Still moving! Ramos shouts, disbelief cutting through his fear. Kowalski slams his palm against the turret wall. Return fire! The Sherman's gun roars. The recoil shakes the hull. A shell streaks into the pass, striking rock short of the German line, throwing up a cloud of dust and stone. German gunners laugh. They've seen this, American crews firing fast, inaccurate, panicked. Weiss adjusts his aim, calm, precise. Another German round hits. This time it punches through the Sherman's side. Flames lick outward. The crew scrambles, hatches flying open as men spill into the freezing air, rolling to smother burning clothes. From the American infantry line, McConnell watches the tank burn. Heat washes over him even from a distance. Someone shouts for a medic. Someone else swears. The Germans push forward, methodical. More Shermans are hit. Some burn. Some are abandoned. The pass fills with smoke, with the metallic tang of cordite, with the screams of wounded men and the grinding thunder of advancing armor. It looks exactly like what the Germans expect. But then something strange happens. From behind the burning wrecks, deeper in the American rear, engines start up. Not one. Not two. Dozens. Fresh Shermans roll forward, treads clanking over rocks and debris, weaving around knocked-out hulks as if they've rehearsed this moment. German gunners hesitate, just for a second. Weiss frowns. He scans left, then right. The silhouettes coming forward look identical to the ones already destroyed. Same rounded turrets. Same profiles. Where are they coming from? His loader asks. Weiss doesn't answer. He keys his radio, barking orders to keep firing. But as another American tank takes a hit and keeps moving, smoke pouring, engines still pushing forward, an uneasy thought begins to form. These tanks don't stay dead. As dawn creeps closer, pale light bleeding into the pass, the battlefield doesn't empty of Shermans. It fills with them. The light changes everything. As the sun edges over the eastern ridgeline, the pass is revealed in full, wrecked vehicles scattered like bones, black smoke curling upward, churned earth torn by tracks and shell craters. The Germans can see now. And what they see confuses them. There are too many American tanks. Oberfeldwebel Weiss steadies his optics again. He counts hulls. 10. 12. More emerging from behind folds in the terrain. Some bear fresh scars, dented armor, cracked fenders, paint burned away. Others look almost untouched, rolling forward in tight intervals, guns already traversing. Impossible, his gunner mutters. Weiss doesn't correct him. He feels it too. The math doesn't work. He has watched Shermans die. Watched crews bail out. Watched fires burn hot enough to warp steel. Those tanks should be gone. But the shapes coming forward look the same. Same model. Same height. Same damned silhouette. Orders crackle over the German radio net. Push through. Break them now. American armor is weak. Everyone knows this. The panzers advance again. Shells slam into Shermans at closer range now. Impacts hammer turrets, punch through plates, blow road wheels apart. One American tank throws a track and slews sideways, grinding to a halt. Another takes a hit to the turret ring and locks up, gun frozen at an awkward angle. But even as some Shermans die, others keep coming. Inside one of them, Lieutenant Harold Brenner grips his cupola handles and forces himself to breathe slowly. He smells oil and burned paint. His driver yells that the suspension feels wrong, something's bent. Brenner doesn't slow them. He can't. Keep moving, he orders. Keep the gun firing. They crest a low rise and suddenly the German tanks are there, close enough to see markings, close enough to see faces behind optics. Brenner's gunner fires point blank. The recoil slams everyone back. The round hits a Panzer IV square in the side, punching through armor and erupting inside. Flames burst from hatches. The German tank stops dead. American infantry cheers somewhere behind him. Brenner doesn't hear it. He's already swinging his turret, already yelling for another round. Nearby, Sergeant Kowalski's replacement tank, pulled from reserve after his first Sherman burned, is back in the fight. New hull. New engine. Same crew, minus one man. Kowalski barely recognizes the terrain they're crossing. The battlefield has been rearranged by fire and steel. German fire intensifies. Artillery joins in. Explosions walk across the American advance, throwing dirt and shrapnel into the air. A shell detonates near Brenner's tank, showering the hull with fragments that ring like hailstones. German commanders press harder. This is the moment, they believe. American formations are exposed. Their tanks are vulnerable. If they break them here, the pass opens. But something else presses back. Behind the immediate fight, far from the German guns, American recovery crews are already at work. Under sporadic fire, half-tracks creep forward. Wrecker vehicles edge toward knocked-out Shermans. Crews move fast, practiced, chains clanking, hooks biting into steel. A tank that burned hours earlier is dragged backward, smoke still seeping from its hull. Another, immobilized but intact, is hauled out of the line, destined for repair instead of abandonment. German observers notice this too. Weiss watches through his optics as an American tank he personally hit earlier is pulled away instead of left to rust. He frowns. In his experience, a tank disabled in combat is finished. Parts are stripped. The rest is scrap. But the Americans don't treat their machines that way. Why aren't they leaving them? His loader asks. Weiss has no answer. The pressure builds on both sides. Ammunition runs low in some German tanks. Crews work frantically to reload. Sweat runs down faces despite the cold. Radios jam with overlapping voices, requests for support, reports of losses, shouted commands that arrive too late. American units feel it too. Shermans cluster too tightly at times, bunching up under fire. Some crews panic. Shots go wide. A tank commander freezes for a crucial second and pays for it with a direct hit that rips open his hull. But even as losses mount, the American line does not thin. More tanks arrive. Fresh crews. Same machines. By mid-morning, the pass is a killing ground. Smoke hangs thick enough to sting the eyes. The noise is constant, engines screaming, guns firing, metal tearing itself apart. German crews begin to realize they are not fighting individual tanks anymore. They are fighting a system. And that system does not stop feeding Shermans into the pass. Late morning. The sun now hangs fully over Kasserine Pass, flattening shadows and exposing every movement. Heat replaces the cold, turning the interior of the tanks into ovens. Sweat drips into eyes. Hands slip on steel controls slick with oil and grime. In a shallow command post carved into rock, Colonel Paul Robinette, commander of Combat Command B, hunches over a map spread across an ammunition crate. The paper is creased, corners weighted down by stones to keep it from blowing away. Red grease pencil marks show German armor thrusts. Blue marks show American units, blurred now, outdated almost as soon as they're drawn. A runner skids to a stop beside him, helmet askew. Sir, more Shermans from the reserve are moving up. Maintenance reports say at least 6 disabled tanks from last night are already operational again. Robinette looks up sharply. Already? Yes, sir. Robinette exhales slowly. He has seen American industry on paper, numbers, schedules, shipping manifests, but seeing it function under fire is something else entirely. He taps the map. Get word to the tank battalions, he says. No static defense. Keep rotating vehicles forward. If one's hit but mobile, it stays in the fight. If it's disabled, pull it back immediately. I want German gunners shooting at ghosts. The order goes out over radio nets, crackling, distorted, but clear enough. American tank commanders repeat it to their crews. Keep moving. Don't linger. Let the enemy waste shells. On the German side, command is also shifting. General Hans-Jürgen von Arnim receives reports in quick succession. More American tanks than expected, recovery vehicles operating under fire, losses mounting. He tightens his jaw. This is not how these battles are supposed to go. German doctrine expects decisive engagements, enemy armor destroyed, battlefield cleared. But the Americans refuse to stay cleared. Orders come down to concentrate fire, to annihilate units completely. Panzer crews are told to finish their kills. Make sure the Shermans burn. Weiss relays the order to his gunner. Aim for the ammo racks, he says. Close range only. They push forward again, firing with brutal precision. A Sherman erupts in a towering flame, turret hatch blown open by the blast. The crew never gets out. Weiss feels no satisfaction. Only urgency. But even as his gun roars, he sees movement behind the American line, tanks maneuvering in depth, shifting positions, presenting new targets while damaged ones vanish. It feels like punching water. Inside Lieutenant Brenner's Sherman, the radio crackles with a new directive. Brenner listens, nods, then relays it. We're not holding ground anymore, he tells his driver. We're trading space for time. The driver grunts. He guns the engine, swinging the tank into a shallow withdrawal, then surges forward again at an angle, presenting a moving target. German shells splash dirt where they were seconds ago. Nearby, American infantry are pulled back behind armor, told to dig in deeper, to let the tanks absorb the brunt. Medics crawl from hole to hole, dragging wounded men into cover. Supply trucks inch closer, unloading ammunition boxes directly into waiting Shermans. Time stretches. Minutes feel like hours. Crews lose track of how many rounds they've fired. Barrels glow hot. Empty casings pile up on turret floors, rolling with every jolt. German crews feel the strain first. Ammunition is not infinite. Fuel is precious. Every shell fired at a Sherman that later reappears feels like a waste. Radios fill with sharp exchanges, accusations, demands, corrections shouted over engine noise. Weiss's loader pauses, sweat-soaked, hands shaking as he rams another shell into the breach. "How many have we destroyed?" he asks. Weiss doesn't answer because he doesn't know. By early afternoon, the battlefield rhythm changes. The Germans are still advancing, but more cautiously. Their formations loosen. Tanks pause longer between shots, waiting for clear targets. The Americans sense it. Robinette's staff notices gaps forming in German pressure. Tank commanders report fewer incoming rounds, more hesitation. "Push now," Robinette orders. "Keep the rotation going. Don't give them time to breathe." Shermans surge forward again, not in a reckless charge, but in a steady, relentless flow. Tanks replace tanks. Crews replace crews. The line bends but does not break. For the first time, German commanders begin to worry not about American armor quality, but about American endurance. This isn't a duel. It's a war of attrition. And the Americans are built for it. Mid-afternoon. The air over Kasserine Pass turns thick and shimmering, heat rippling above burned-out hulls and scorched earth. Smoke settles into the low ground, blurring distances and warping shapes. Visibility becomes a trick of the eye. For the Germans, this should be an advantage. They are trained for this kind of chaos. But it is here, in the smoke and confusion, that something goes wrong. Oberfeldwebel Weiss receives a new order over the radio: advance and exploit what command believes is a weakening American center. Recon reports claim multiple Sherman losses in that sector. The opportunity, he's told, is now. Weiss hesitates. His own eyes tell a different story. He has watched American tanks vanish and reappear all day. Still, orders are orders. His Panzer lurches forward, followed by two others. They crest a shallow ridge, guns scanning for targets. What Weiss doesn't know is that the American gap is a trap. Behind a low rise, Lieutenant Brenner's platoon waits in silence. Engines are off. Crews sit motionless, sweat drying on skin, flies buzzing inside the turret. Brenner peers through his binoculars, watching German silhouettes loom through the smoke. He raises his fist. The Shermans roar to life all at once. Engines scream. Tanks surge forward from cover, guns already traversing. At less than 300 yards, the first American shells hit. One Panzer shudders, armor cracking open. Another slews sideways as its track is blown apart. Weiss shouts for reverse, but the command comes too late. A Sherman round punches through his glassy plate. The interior fills with fire and noise. His world collapses into heat and pressure and light. Nearby, German tanks scramble to respond, firing wildly, some rounds striking Shermans, others sailing into smoke. In the confusion, one Panzer fires too low, its shell burying itself harmlessly in dirt. American gunners exploit it mercilessly. But the mistake isn't just tactical. It's psychological. German crews begin to doubt their own kill claims. Tanks they believe destroyed are suddenly firing again. Hulls they recognize appear back in the line, patched, repainted, recrewed. A German radio operator reports frantically. "Enemy armor strength unchanged." Command snaps back. "Impossible. You've already destroyed dozens." But on the battlefield, impossible is happening. American recovery teams push closer still, emboldened by the shifting fight. Under covering fire, they drag away disabled Shermans almost as soon as they're hit. Crews watch this through optics, disbelief creeping in. One German gunner lowers his sights and mutters, "They don't run out." As the afternoon wears on, a new sound joins the battle, the distant thump of American artillery, reposition closer, firing in tighter coordination with armor. Shells land among German tanks, forcing them to scatter, breaking formations that had held all day. The Germans respond, but coordination falters. Radios are clogged. Orders conflict. Some units push while others pull back. The clean lines of attack dissolve into pockets of fighting. American tank commanders sense the moment. Brenner's voice is hoarse as he shouts orders, urging his crews forward again and again. They fire until barrels smoke and loaders can barely lift shells. German armor begins to withdraw in fits and starts. Not a rout, but no longer confident. As the sun sinks lower, shadows stretch long across the pass. Burnout tanks, German and American, stand side by side, blackened and silent. The ground between them is littered with spent casings and torn gear. The Germans had expected American tanks to shatter under pressure. Instead, they have run headlong into resistance that regenerates. And somewhere deep in German command, the realization begins to form. Destroying Shermans is not enough. You have to destroy the system behind them. And that system is far beyond the reach of a single battlefield. Late afternoon bleeds into early evening. The sun dips toward the western ridgeline, but the heat lingers, trapped in steel hulls and scorched earth. Fatigue settles into every movement. Inside the Shermans, crews are nearing exhaustion. Lieutenant Brenner's hands cramp around the turret handles. His throat is raw from shouting. Every time the gun fires, a fresh wave of concussion slams through his body. His driver's voice comes over the intercom, strained and unsteady, asking again how much fuel they have left. Enough, Brenner answers. It's a lie, but it's necessary. Nearby, Sergeant Kowalski wipes soot from his face with a sleeve already stiff with dried sweat. He thinks of the crewmen they lost that morning. There hasn't been time to process it. There may never be. The psychological weight presses hardest during the lulls. Engines idle. Guns cool. Men listen to the battlefield breathe, distant artillery, the crackle of small arms, the occasional explosion echoing off rock walls. Every sound feels like a warning. German crews feel it too. Those still operational are running on nerves and routine. Load. Fire. Reverse. Repeat. But the confidence that marked the morning is gone. Every time a Sherman appears, there's a moment of hesitation. Is it new? Is it repaired? Is it bait? A German gunner fires, hits, and waits for flames that don't come. The Sherman backs away, smoking but intact. Minutes later, another Sherman rolls into view from the same direction. The effect is corrosive. Radio chatter grows sharp, edged with fear. Reports contradict each other. One crew claims an American breakthrough. Another insists the enemy is collapsing. Commanders struggle to piece together a coherent picture. As dusk approaches, the Americans deliberately slow their advance. Robinette orders his units to hold ground, rotate crews, and bring forward maintenance teams under the fading light. This is where the Americans gain something the Germans don't expect: rest. Even under fire, Shermans are pulled back one by one. Engines are checked. Tracks tightened. Damaged optics replaced. Crews gulp water, shove ration bars into their mouths, and climb back in. German units don't have that luxury. Disabled tanks stay disabled. Crews work with what they have, in place, under threat. Ammunition shortages force rationing. Fuel gauges dip toward empty. Night approaches, and with it, uncertainty. Darkness does not bring relief. It sharpens fear. As the last light fades, flares arc upward again, painting the pass in ghostly white. Tanks freeze in place, unsure whether to advance or withdraw. Every silhouette looks hostile. Inside his panzer, a German commander grips his periscope and listens to his own breathing. He has lost count of how many American tanks he has engaged. The number no longer matters. What matters is that they keep coming. On the American side, Brenner receives quiet instructions over the radio: hold positions through the night. Expect probing attacks. Be ready. He nods, though no one can see him. He leans back against the turret wall, eyes closed for a moment, letting the engine's vibration steady him. This is the breaking point, not of machines, but of men. Who can stay awake longer? Who can endure the pressure without cracking? Out in the darkness of Kasserine Pass, burned steel cools and pops. Wounded men groan softly. Somewhere, a tank engine coughs and dies. The battle pauses, but it does not end. Night settles fully over Kasserine Pass. The sky is moonless, a heavy black pressing down on the narrow valley. Stars flicker faintly through drifting smoke. The temperature drops fast, pulling heat from exhausted bodies and turning sweat into a chill that sinks deep into muscle and bone. Engines idle low across the battlefield, some American, some German, each sound carefully muted, each vibration a risk. Crews whisper instead of speak. Metal clicks echo too loudly in the dark. Shortly after 2200 hours, the first probing attack begins. German infantry move forward cautiously, using the wrecks of tanks as cover. Their boots scrape rock. A canteen clinks. An American sentry stiffens, heart pounding, finger tightening on a trigger. A burst of machine gun fire shatters the quiet. Tracers slice through the darkness. Flares leap skyward again, turning night into harsh, flickering daylight. Shadows jerk and twist. Men dive for cover. German tanks follow, advancing in ones and twos, firing blindly toward muzzle flashes. Shells slam into American positions, shaking hulls, rattling teeth. Inside Brenner's Sherman, the world becomes noise and vibration. He shouts orders he can barely hear himself. The gun fires. The tank rocks. Smoke fills the turret, stinging eyes. Then something decisive happens. An American artillery battery, repositioned earlier that day, opens fire with devastating accuracy. The first salvo lands short. The second walks directly into the German advance. Explosions tear the ground apart, flinging dirt and steel into the air. German formations break apart in the dark. Confusion reigns. Radios crackle with overlapping voices, units calling for support, reporting losses, shouting warnings that go unheard. Tanks stop and start, unsure where friendly lines are. American tanks exploit it instantly. Shermans surge forward from concealed positions, firing at close range. German tanks caught in silhouette burn brightly, marking targets for the next wave of fire. Weiss's unit, what remains of it, tries to regroup. Orders come to pull back to more defensible ground. The movement is slow, cautious, haunted by the fear of driving straight into another American ambush. By midnight, the German push has stalled. The pass is littered with fresh wrecks. Smoke hangs thick, illuminated by burning fuel. The ground is churned into mud and debris. American crews feel it before they're told. The pressure has eased. Brenner leans against his periscope, chest heaving. He listens. The incoming fire has slackened. The intervals between explosions grow longer. Over the radio comes a clipped message from command, German armor withdrawing to regroup. It's not a victory in the traditional sense. No cheering erupts. No one climbs out of their tank in triumph. But something has shifted. For the first time since dawn, the Americans are not reacting. They are holding. Behind the lines, recovery crews move again, dragging damaged Shermans out of the dark, replacing them with others that roll forward quietly, engines humming with restrained power. The system resets itself, right in the middle of the battlefield. German commanders, watching from the rear, begin to grasp the full implication. This fight cannot be won by destroying tanks faster than they appear. The Americans will replace them. Tonight. Tomorrow. The next day. And beyond Kasserine Pass, beyond North Africa, there are more Shermans than anyone here can see. As the night wears on, the firing dwindles to sporadic shots. Men on both sides slump where they stand, grabbing minutes of sleep when they can, weapons still in hand. The critical moment has passed. The balance has tipped, not because the Sherman is invincible, but because it refuses to stay gone. Dawn comes slowly on February 20th. A thin gray light creeps into Kasserine Pass, revealing a battlefield transformed yet again. Smoke drifts low, clinging to the ground. Burned-out tanks sit half-buried in dust and ash, their twisted silhouettes casting long shadows across the valley floor. American crews stir inside their Shermans, stiff and bleary-eyed. Engines cough to life one by one, the sound echoing off the rock walls like a heartbeat returning after a long pause. Lieutenant Brenner checks his watch. He has lost track of how long he's been awake. His gunner's eyes are red-rimmed, unfocused. The loader moves automatically, muscle memory doing what conscious thought can't anymore. Across the pass, German units are still there, but thinner. Fewer engines rumble. Fewer guns move. Orders ripple through American ranks as the sun rises. Advance cautiously. Probe. Do not overextend. Shermans roll forward again, treads crunching over debris. Some pass wrecks from the previous day, American tanks already marked for recovery, German hulks abandoned where they died. As hours pass, the pattern repeats. German tanks fire. American tanks absorb, withdraw, return. Hits are taken. Vehicles are lost. But always, another Sherman fills the gap. German crews grow visibly cautious. They fire from longer ranges, reverse sooner, break contact more readily. Their movements lose the sharp confidence of earlier assaults. Midday brings a final German attempt to regain momentum. A concentrated push forms near the center of the pass. Panzers advance under covering fire, engines roaring in a show of force meant to intimidate. American artillery responds immediately. Shells bracket the advancing tanks. Smoke rounds obscure German sight lines. Shermans maneuver through it, appearing suddenly at flanks, firing, vanishing again. Brenner's tank takes a hit to the suspension. The impact jars everyone violently. Warning lights flicker. Can we move? Brenner demands. The driver tests the controls. The tank lurches forward, limping but alive. Then we stay, Brenner says. They fire until their ammo runs low, then reverse behind a ridge. Minutes later, another Sherman slides into their former position, gun already blazing. German observers watch this with mounting frustration. Destroyed American positions refill faster than they can be suppressed. Each push bleeds strength with no decisive gain. By late afternoon, the German offensive falters. Orders shift from attack to containment. Units pull back to more defensible lines. Tanks disperse instead of massing, wary of artillery and ambush. American forces press, but carefully. They do not chase recklessly. They consolidate ground, repair vehicles, bring up supplies. Time stretches again, but this time it favors the Americans. As the sun sinks on the second day, the shape of the battle is clear to those still fighting it. The Germans have not been beaten tactically in a single dramatic clash. They have been worn down. Not by superior armor. Not by flawless crews. But by an enemy who can lose tanks all day, and return with more the next morning. In the fading light, Brenner watches another Sherman roll past his position, freshly painted numbers stark against clean olive drab. He feels something close to all. The climax of the fight isn't an explosion, or a charge. It's the quiet realization, spreading from crew to crew, that the Americans are not running out. February 21, 1943. Morning. The firing has thinned to scattered bursts by the time the sun clears the ridgeline. Kasserine Pass lies under a pale, dusty light, stripped of illusion. What remains is wreckage, exhaustion, and silence broken only by engines starting and stopping. German armor is no longer massed. Where once panzers advanced in confident columns, now they sit dispersed, partially concealed, guns oriented defensively. Some crews are already pulling back, reversing slowly, wary of exposing their flanks. Others wait for orders that do not come. On the American side, movement is deliberate and controlled. Shermans advance in measured bounds, overwatching one another, halting to scan, then moving again. Infantry follows closely now, boots crunching over spent casings and shattered rock. Lieutenant Brenner stands half-exposed in his cupola, binoculars pressed to his eyes. He sees it clearly, the Germans are yielding ground. Not retreating in panic, but giving way, inch by inch. A radio message confirms it moments later. German forces are disengaging from the pass. The breakthrough doesn't come with a roar. It arrives quietly, like a pressure suddenly released. American tanks roll into positions that had been under German fire for 2 days straight. No shots greet them. No counterattack follows. Only abandoned hulls, cooling in the sun. German commanders make the calculation at last. Continuing the fight here costs too much for too little gain. Every tank lost is irreplaceable. Every crew casualty permanent. The Americans, by contrast, keep resetting. Recovery vehicles are already at work again. Damaged Shermans from the night before are dragged back, some still warm to the touch. Maintenance crews swarm them, tools clanking, engines exposed, repairs begun even before the guns fall silent. German observers note it bitterly as they withdraw. They have destroyed American tanks, many of them. And yet, standing on the ground they are abandoning, American armor still outnumbers them. By midday, Kasserine Pass is firmly in American hands. The battlefield is quiet enough now that individual sounds stand out: the tick of cooling engines, the crackle of small fires burning themselves out, the low murmur of voices as men finally speak without shouting. Brenner climbs down from his tank for the first time in hours. His legs feel weak, unsteady. He leans against the hull, palm resting on scarred steel. Around him, Shermans idle in place, some battered, some pristine, all very much present. American infantry move among them, pointing, talking, laughing weakly in relief. Medics work steadily but no longer frantically. The wounded are carried back without incoming fire snapping overhead. German forces are gone beyond the pass now, regrouping elsewhere, forced to rethink how to face an enemy that does not fight by their rules. The outcome is not total victory. Losses are heavy. Mistakes are painfully obvious. But something fundamental has changed. The Sherman, mocked for its thin armor, dismissed as inferior, has done what it was built to do. It stayed. And in doing so, it broke the attack. The hours after the fighting feel unreal. Silence settles unevenly across Kasserine Pass, broken not by gunfire but by human sounds: boots scraping rock, low voices, the hiss of steam venting from overheated engines. Smoke still rises from wrecks scattered along the valley floor, but now it drifts lazily, no longer churned by explosions. American soldiers move cautiously at first, weapons still raised, eyes scanning for threats that never appear. Lieutenant Brenner walks the line with his crew, stepping around shell craters and twisted metal. He recognizes places where his tank had been only hours earlier, fresh gouges in the earth, scorched patches where rounds struck and ricocheted. Near one wrecked panzer, a group of American infantry stands silently. The German tank is split open, its interior charred black. Brenner pauses, nods once, then moves on. There is no triumph here. Only acknowledgement. Recovery teams fan out in earnest now. Wrecker vehicles rumble forward, their winches whining as cables tighten around damaged Shermans. Tanks that had been knocked out, abandoned, or ridden off during the battle are dragged back into makeshift repair areas. Crews mark hulls with chalk, notes for mechanics, damage assessments, instructions. Some Shermans are too far gone, burned to skeletal frames. Others are missing tracks, road wheels, radios, pieces that can be replaced. German tanks are different. They sit where they fell. No recovery crews come for them. Some are booby-trapped. Others are simply left, monuments to a fight that has moved on without them. American mechanics work with methodical speed. Hatches open. Engines are exposed. Replacement parts appear from trucks that seem to have everything: new treads, spare guns, radios still wrapped in protective coverings. To German observers watching from a distance, it is deeply unsettling. The battlefield does not stay frozen in time. It repairs itself. Medics continue their work among the wreckage. Stretchers move back and forth. Wounded men are loaded into ambulances, faces pale but alive. Some joke weakly. Others stare upward, silent. Brenner finally sits, back against his Sherman's hull. He removes his helmet and sets it beside him. Only now does the shaking start, fine tremors running through his hands as the adrenaline drains away. Nearby, Sergeant Kowalski lights a cigarette with trembling fingers. He offers one to another crewman, who shakes his head. They sit together without speaking, listening to the quiet. A staff officer walks past, reading from a clipboard, counting tanks. Operational, reparable. The list is longer than anyone expected. As afternoon turns toward evening, orders come down to reorganize units, rotate crews, prepare for the next movement. There is no long pause allowed. The war continues elsewhere. But here, in the pass, the lesson has been learned by both sides. The Sherman did not dominate through invulnerability. It dominated through persistence. German officers write reports that night describing American armor in new terms, not as weak, but as inexhaustible. A weapon backed by an industrial tide they cannot stem. As darkness approaches again, the battlefield grows quiet. Fires die down. Tools are packed away. Guards are posted. Kasserine Pass, scarred and silent, holds the evidence of a shift that will echo far beyond North Africa. Night returns to Kasserine Pass without ceremony. There are no flares this time. No probing fire. Just darkness settling gently over wreckage and worn-out men. The wind moves through the pass again, carrying the smell of burned fuel and hot metal cooling at last. American sentries take their posts, rifles slung, boots crunching softly on gravel. Some pause to look out across the valley where the fighting had raged only hours earlier. In the dim starlight, the shapes of tanks, American and German, blend together into silent hulks. Inside his Sherman, Lieutenant Brenner lies on the turret floor, helmet under his head, eyes open. Sleep refuses to come. Every distant sound snaps his attention back to the fight that has already ended. He thinks of the men who didn't climb out of their tanks. Of voices that were on the radio yesterday and are gone now. Of how close the line came to breaking. Nearby, Sergeant Kowalski finally drifts off sitting upright against his hull, cigarette burned down to ash between his fingers. No one wakes him. Rest is too rare to interrupt. Across the pass, German crews do the same, those who remain. They pull back into new positions, quieter, more cautious than before. Their tanks are fewer now. Their confidence diminished. They know what they have seen. They destroyed American tanks. And it did not stop the Americans. In the days that follow, Shermans once written off return to service. New hulls arrive. New crews replace lost ones. The line moves forward again, carrying the lessons of Kasserine with it. The Sherman's armor is still thin. Its silhouette still tall. Its weaknesses remain. But so does the system behind it. For the men who fought here, that knowledge lingers in a different way. They remember the noise. The waiting. The fear. The moment when another Sherman appeared where none should have been. Not because it was indestructible, but because it could be replaced. In the quiet of Kasserine Pass, long after the engines go silent, the battlefield offers its final truth. Wars are not always decided by what survives a single hit. Sometimes, they are decided by what keeps coming back.